Well, Razorback fans, I know we've been talking a lot about the position groups here with the Razorback football team, and we'll continue on with that. But as a nice little segue, I do want to bring up the Razorback football schedule and why does it always have to be this way? One of the most difficult in all the country. Once again, well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, a wonderful long weekend, the July 4th weekend, which I know was much needed for many of us out there, but we get closer and closer to SEC Football Media Days coming up next week, which I'll be down there in Atlanta attending and having some great content for you from there. But we'll talk about a great week that was and weekend that was for Razorback baseball and recruiting. And we'll also get into a little bit of an update of what's going on in the administration with Razorback athletics and something that really stood out to me. But I wanted to bring up the schedule for Razorback football because we'll talk about the defense throughout the rest of the week and the position groups from there and why they could be better, why they may be better, what it looks like, and an in-depth breakdown and everything. But again, I wanted to use this as kind of a segue and a middle piece to go into the schedule itself for Razorback football. Now, it's not like the schedule just came out. We have known the schedule. We've known the schedule for a while. Essentially, what was done is that last year's SEC schedule, the 8-game slate that you had, all the games just got reversed. Instead of playing certain teams at home, you play them on the road, and teams on the road, you play at home. Simple as that. And then the non-conference schedule slate is something that was been made and put together years in advance. So it hasn't really been anything too crazy as far as surprises or anything like that when it comes to the schedule. But I saw that Phil Steele and so many others, when they come to ranking the most difficult schedules in all of college football, Arkansas once again is near the top. I think Phil Steele had him as the number 3 most difficult schedule in the SEC, or in the country, and number 2 in the SEC, next to Mississippi State, who was number 2 all overall. But it's almost like a running joke, you know? It's almost like, really? Is this how it's going to be every single time? Yes, it is. It's a tale as old as time, a tradition like no other. The most difficult schedules. And I was looking at some of this in other teams in the SEC, and it was baffling to me just how some of these SEC teams get away with it, if you want to call it that, but honestly just have such an easier route of the schedule than anybody else. I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand why it continues to happen, but Arkansas is definitely one of those teams every year. Now, to go through the schedule, actually, we'll do that in a second, but I wanted to give you guys, all of you guys, an example of what I mean by comparatively speaking in an SEC schedule. Like Missouri. Shout out to Missouri. There's one thing that they are very good at, apparently, is not only winning 8 or 9 games here recently, but winning 8 or 9 games was arguably the most easiest schedule anybody will ever have in the history of any college football at major level. I was looking at their schedule. Again, the SEC schedule gets made, however, but their non-conference games are against Kansas and Louisiana. Both at home, by the way. Their home games, get this, their home games. Right now, South Carolina, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. Now, I want to be clear that no SEC schedule is just a cakewalk because it's the SEC. You're going to have tough games in there. But then their road games at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, at Oklahoma, and at Arkansas. So their SEC opponents, they don't play Georgia. They don't play Tennessee. They don't play Texas. They don't play Florida. I mean, how does this happen? They don't play Ole Miss. They play what will more than likely be the bottom 8 teams of the SEC, or at least one's contending for it. Their toughest one is Alabama at home, Texas A&M at home. But I'm not going out and hating on Missouri. It's more of an envious thing. I wish Arkansas had a schedule like that, because I truly believe if you had a schedule like that, it sets up so nicely for you to go in there and, maybe win more than 2 or 3 games in the SEC. Maybe actually get to that 8 or 9 win mark. Now, granted, a lot of this has had to do with Arkansas being in the SEC West. Just recently, over the past couple years, they have transitioned out of divisions. And when you have divisions and your one opponent that was outside of the division was Missouri every year, you're not going to get a lot of favors when you have to play Alabama and LSU and Auburn every year. Throw in Texas A&M. It was just a very difficult thing. Ole Miss now too. So you never really got any breaks. But then 2020 happened, where everybody had 10 SEC games. And for Arkansas, who was coming off of the worst seasons you could ever have, they were just so nice and said, hey, not only are we going to have an 8-game SEC schedule that's already tough, but we're going to give you Georgia and Florida on top of that. That's awesome. So it immediately became the toughest, if not arguably the toughest schedule of all time. Great. And then year after year, you play the contenders. Like this year, you play at Texas, at Tennessee. Those are 2 teams that were in the playoffs last year. You play them on the road. And then 2 teams that were borderline playoff teams, Ole Miss and LSU, you also play on the road. Oh, and by the way, you play a home game against Notre Dame, the team that was in the national championship game last year. Great. And you go on the road to Memphis. I don't know why, but you do. And you have a game against Arkansas State in Little Rock at War Memorial Stadium. Now, I'm not saying this is something that Arkansas got screwed in. Arkansas, in a lot of ways, screwed themselves. They screwed themselves in allowing this schedule to fall the way that it did, especially in the non-conference. I do not know what the point of playing at Memphis is. I really don't. I can understand. I mean, here's the deal. The Notre Dame game, awesome. I love that. And I was so upset when 2020 happened and we couldn't go to Notre Dame. I believe that game's going to be happening in 2029 to go to Notre Dame. But I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Historical, never happened. Cool. The Arkansas State game, I get why they did it. I still think it's crap. I still don't think it needs to happen ever again. I think it needs to be the last game against Arkansas State. It needs to be the last game in War Memorial Stadium. It needs to just die. And that's how I feel about it. But still, I at least get why they did it, because they had to make the amendment in order to get that extra SEC game in Fayetteville. But at Memphis, I have no clue. 0 clue why. There's no benefit in that. You already knew that you were playing Notre Dame. You already knew, I believe, you were playing Arkansas State. So let's schedule a road game at Memphis? Whose idea was that? And then with the SEC slate, it was a great home schedule last year. I mean, they helped you out last year, where you had 4 true home games against 4 high-caliber opponents, and then you only had 3 true road games against 3 average to below average teams, and then A&M and Arlington. You had it set. And honestly, with the game being at Oklahoma State last year, you lost that game even though Oklahoma State was crap. Last year's schedule benefited you, even though it was tough. It still benefited you as far as the location of games. This year does not do you any favors. So the question becomes of when, if and when, Arkansas will ever have a schedule like Missouri, who I just read off of, or whoever. Will they ever have a schedule to where you look at it and you're like, man, forget how good the team is, or whoever. I look at the opponents they're going to be playing, and I see 6 wins, 7 wins alone based on that. It's a nauseating thing. And it's not making excuses. You got to win the games in front of you. It's just more of like, why does it have to always be this way? Why can't they find a time to where the schedule actually favors them? Because I don't know if it's ever going to go away. You're going to play Texas every year. I know they're always going to be competing for something. You're probably going to play LSU more often than not, Ole Miss more often than not. You'll play Texas A&M more often than not. It's like, why can't you play Oklahoma? Wouldn't that be nice to have them this year? Play Oklahoma. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Kentucky. That'd be nice. Vanderbilt. I know they're better, but it's like Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. You still feel good about it. Like, why can't they have one of those? Nah. Here you go. Take all the toughest teams in the league. Oh, but we didn't get you Georgia. Well, thank goodness. That's very mighty kind of you. But also, too, and I'll wrap up on this note with the schedule. One of the biggest reasons why Arkansas may have one of the toughest schedules every year is because they don't have Arkansas on their schedule. I hate to be that way, but it's true. More often than not, people look at a schedule, and if they see Arkansas on the schedule, they're like, well, that's a win or win a bowl. Like Mississippi State is probably looking at that game against Arkansas in favor, being like, it's a winnable game. Auburn, same thing. I mean, every team that you're going to play this year in the SEC is looking at your game as either a surefire win or winnable. And that's a sucky feeling to have. Nothing you can do about it. But you don't have an Arkansas on your schedule this year. You don't have that bad team. Sure, you have a team that may not be as good, Mississippi State, but at least there's some pomp and excitement to them. I feel like they're going to be better than what they were a year ago. It's tough, man. It's tough. But we'll find a way. We'll get excited. It'll be a great schedule to watch Arkansas have to navigate through. And I've even said this before, that there is a good chance that they are a better team this year, but have less wins than a year ago, just simply because of how difficult the schedule is. No one's feeling sorry for you, though, Razorback fans. No one's feeling sorry for you. You just got to be smarter. You got to find a way to get some luck on your side when it comes to all this stuff. It's craziness. I wanted to bring up something about an update that I can actually speak upon now, dealing with the Razorback administration and the athletic department, something that's very important to me. I mean, not to you, but to me. But we'll get to that here in a second, so stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, have you ever decided after a last minute that you want to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes into play. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets so fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got an incredible amount of last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of all the buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Locked On MLB network, and we know that it's making it easy to browse through the app and for all the exciting Major League Baseball games. A lot of you in the summertime, you like to go to those games and take the kids there, take the son there, have a good father and son catch out there in the Major League ballpark. Well, that's what you can get because Game Time has last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for different things, different events. And it doesn't matter where it's at. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You got to do it with the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying buying tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, I want to be clear about something, folks, before I get into this. I know that people have seen me or maybe felt like I have been very critical and overly critical at times of the athletic department at the U of A. And, I don't regret it. I don't take anything back because I said what I feel and I said how I feel about it. I don't want to be known as the person that just hates on them, but, if I see things that I don't like, I like to call them out. And as we know, in fact, which by the way, I will be recording a Locked On podcast, maybe even this week, of things I would do if I was the athletic director. Not just simply firing and hiring coaches, but more in depth about it and like things I would do and change and everything. But yeah, we know last week and over the past, I guess, 10 days, there have been major cuts that have been made to the University of Arkansas in the athletic department. And I was really hurting for some of those people. And a lot of you who listen to this podcast probably heard me say that there was, again, no one, you don't want to see anyone lose their job. You don't want to see anyone go through that. But there was one particular individual that ended up being part of that downsizing that they had at the U of A. That was somebody that I don't believe deserved it, and I don't believe should have shown the door in an early retirement, and that is Kevin Trainor, KT. I try not to talk too much about him and about it because it wasn't my place at the time. I wanted to be respectful to him and everything, but now that I saw the Best of Arkansas Sports wrote an article about it and talking with my guys, David Basil and Joe Klein, who I talked to also about this before it all happened. In fact, I hate to be that guy, but like I'm the one that told Baz about Kevin, getting the kind of the layoff there, and he was upset as was I. But either way, it's unfortunate because Kevin Trainor, for those of you who don't know, Kevin Trainor has been in it from the get go. Man, he's a guy that's truly Razorback, and he was a guy that was here for 30 years. Almost as long as I've been alive. He dealt with public relations, and he was always about Razorback through and through. Like, that's all he was Razorback. His older brother was Kendall Trainor, who played football. He married Frank Broyles' daughter. There's just a lot of connections there, and Kevin has been very kind to me every time I've talked to him. I'm sure in what he does and how he's done it, and knowing that he's in communications and stuff, maybe he's not agreed with a lot of things I've said, but that's fine. I mean, he's been respectful to me, and I've tried to be respectful to him. And I have a lot of appreciation and respect for what he's done and who he is and all of that. And, it's just unfortunate that, something like this had to happen to him, where from my understanding, he was on vacation and it was pretty sudden. He just got, hey, you're no longer here. And it looks like, at least according to reports, that he'll have another job, maybe in the foundation or something like that. But, David Basil was very, and I want to read this quote because it's great. And this is my guy, Baz. He said, Hunter, you're checking everybody up there making $250,000 a year who are all up and down the department. You're just caretakers. You're stewards. You're standing on the shoulders, just like Joe Klein when we were there. We stood on the shoulders of Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson and Frank Broyles and Wilson Matthews. I took that seriously. And he went on, and the article went on to say, said that Basil, who spoke to Trainor before publicly criticizing Yurchek, wanted to see if Yurchek provides some feedback to Trainor before he made the decision. If he was falling short of expectations, how could he do better? Could he not take on more responsibilities? Instead, the news caught Trainor by surprise. It appears that there was little, if no, heads up. And according to Joe Klein, he said that they pretty much cold turkey fired him, and that's BS, is what he said. Again, it goes on to talk about how he probably has a job, or it looks like he has a job in the foundation if he wants it, and how it's all going to happen. But either way, I really don't like it. I really hate it. And even Baz went on to say, he's like, you guys probably won't be here in a few years, talking about Yurchek and everybody. He's like, we want Trainor to still be here. It's not like he's 65 or 70 years old. It's going to be fascinating, though, because, Yurchek goes and speaks to that Little Rock Touchdown Club every year, which Baz puts on. So that'll be fascinating to see what that happens. We have to go into it. But either way, I don't bring that up and all this up to just, go crazy about Kevin Trainor and, because a lot of you may not even know who he is or even care. But the point is, and this is what I alluded to a little bit, and this is just reaffirming my position before we get into some other things I'm sure you may be more interested in. This is the whole culture problem that I feel like is getting pushed out more and more, faster and faster, day by day. I don't want to sound like one of these old men yelling at clouds and be like, back in my day, we need to get back to having slobber hog and just I want to be that. But there is a time where there's been a lot of things that just feel like the old guard, the way the things that I grew up with. Me personally, I'm speaking from me. I grew up with as a Razorback fan. What made me a Razorback fan? What made me feel as a Razorback fan? Those things are not appreciated, they're not respected, and they're moved out. I'm not saying you have to keep everything in the same old guard, but I believe that there are some things that you need to appreciate and respect and to keep on if you can. And Kevin Trainor is one of those guys that just is the latest example of we would rather hire and bring in people from the outside that have no idea about Arkansas, that thinks that, this is just a stepping stone for another job later, or they needed something, or, they come in and they only see cows and chickens and, just, I don't know who any of those people are over there, man. I just don't know anybody. I know I still have friends in the foundation. I have some friends, a little bit in the admin, but I don't know who anybody is. I don't know what makes them Razorbacks. I know I'm ranting here, but this is important to me. You're not a Razorback because you work for the University of Arkansas. That doesn't make you a Razorback. Sure, you can wear your Razorback polo shirts. You can have your Razorback logo on your business card. You can have that Razorback logo on your desk. You can talk about how much you love going to the games. That's not what makes you a Razorback. What makes you a Razorback is when you buy all in. That you believe truly that not only is this your program that you work for, but that you want to see succeed, not because of your own selfish ambitions. You want to see it succeed because you know that it is the program you want to see get to the highest level, and you will do whatever it takes because you believe it is the greatest program in the world. And you'll do whatever you can to make it that. Not to move on to somewhere else, but to make it to where you understand and you feel a part of something great, and you want to see it succeed because what it means to the Razorback fans, to the Razorback faithful, to the state of Arkansas, and to everybody involved, not what it means to your resume. That's what, to me, being a Razorback is when in doubt. When you're flying high, when things are the greatest, you're not looking for another job. This is the job. This is the dream job. And I just don't think that you have many people there left that feel that same way. Sad. On a lighter note, though, Razorback baseball had a great weekend in the transfer portal. We'll talk about some of those players. Stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Razorback baseball still looking into transfers and everything, but man, oh man, did they have a big old weekend. People were wondering what was going to happen. Just a few players of note. Missouri State outfielder Zach Stewart, he announced that he would be transferring to the Razorback baseball team. He was the 2023 Missouri Valley Conference Freshman of the Year. I batted .292, had 44 home runs, 34 doubles, 147 RBIs in his 3-year tenure, not in 1 year, but his 3-year tenure. So really great get for Arkansas there. And it just keeps getting better, to be honest. Then you got the Texas Tech infielder TJ Pompey, who is a 2024 freshman All-American. I love that. Anytime you got that, you got to feel good about it. But he's a 6'4", 200 pounds. He's not a couple. He's just an absolute unit. He started in 18 of 19 games this past season and batted .348 with 5 home runs. Struck out 25 times and drew 5 walks. But he suffered an unspecified season-ending injury in March 30th. So he was a guy that actually played against Arkansas, if you can believe it, and also was a guy that probably would have played a lot more and had really great stats this year if it wasn't for his injury. But without a doubt, a great one has also been Maka Niu. I think that's how you say his name. But he's out of the Cape Cod League, or he's been playing in the Cape Cod League from Marshall. He's committed to Arkansas. He's a big time player. Don't know if he's going to stay on. We'll see because of the situation with him possibly getting drafted. Because a lot of these guys are draft eligible. But one of the ones that got everybody excited was Damian Ruiz. He was the Southland Conference Hitter of the Year. He's transferring to Arkansas. He batted .388, slugged .607, and had a .511 on base percentage as a redshirt sophomore with Lamar. Yeah, that's really good. So the point is, they're still adding some pieces. They're still building. They still got some guys they want to add in. We'll see who ends up leaving, see who ends up, being committed to Arkansas, but goes into the MLB draft anyways. But what I'm looking at it is like, hey, this is pretty nasty roster that Dave Van Horn's building. And I am not surprised because this is what they do. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to have the talent, but they just got to put it all together. Who knows? Maybe this is the year. So keep it up and we'll keep you updated. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.